She screamed, "I'm your mom too!" and blocked the door, refusing to let me leave while my dad stood there frozen, and I thought, is this actually happening? I'm 17F, and my parents divorced a few years ago. They share custody of me and my three younger brothers, 16, 14, and 13. My mom's been with her boyfriend for years, but he only moved in with us last year. Meanwhile, my dad remarried about a year and a half after the divorce. Let's just say things with my stepmom have been complicated. From the beginning, my stepmom was jealous, not just of my mom, but of the love me and my brothers have for her. She didn't like that we didn't consider her a second mom or see her as equal to our parents. To make it worse for her, we've always gotten along great with my mom's boyfriend. He's one of those people who doesn't force himself into our lives, but instead just fits. He's chill, fun, and respectful of boundaries. My stepmom? Not so much. It's not that we haven't tried to be respectful. We've even told our dad about the issues we have with her attitude. She toned it down after he talked to her, but we could still feel her anger bubbling under the surface, especially when my mom was around. She couldn't hide the looks she'd give my mom or the way she tried to insert herself into moments that weren't hers. She'd come to all our school plays and sports games, which would have been fine, except she'd always try to be the first one to us afterward. She once yelled at my youngest brother for running past her to hug our mom after a play. My dad had to step in and tell her to knock it off. She did, but it was obvious she hated it. The worst, though, is how she talks about my mom. Every Mother's Day since they've been married, she calls my grandma, my dad's mom, and complains about my mom. She rants about how Mother's Day should be about her, and my mom shouldn't even be part of the conversation. My grandma told me this last year when I asked why she didn't like my stepmom. Her exact words? She feels like my stepmom would love it if my mom just abandoned us so she could swoop in, play the hero, and be the perfect mom. Honestly, I don't see her as a mom at all. If something happened to my parents, I'd rather live with my mom's boyfriend than her. He doesn't force himself into our lives or act like he's competing for our love. He's just a cool guy who gets it. A while back, I won a spa day in a Mother's Day competition. I asked my grandma, my mom, and my mom's mom if they wanted to go. They were all in, and they even planned extra activities for the day. It was amazing. They later did something similar with my brothers on different days, and we spent actual Mother's Day as a group, including my grandma. Fast forward a few weeks. My stepmom saw photos of the spa day on Facebook. She lost it. She called my grandma, ranting about how she wasn't included and, of course, blamed my mom. Then she came to me, and she said we needed to do the same thing with her, her mom, and my grandma. I told her I wasn't interested. She didn't take it well. She said I had to go because I have two moms and another grandma and needed to treat them equally. That's when I snapped. I told her I only have one mom and two grandmas, and she needed to accept that. She tried to argue, saying she didn't feel important and that I should make her feel special. I told her point blank that she's not as important and it's not my job to make her feel that way. Then I went further. I said I don't like how she competes with my mom and tries to push her out of our lives. She blew up. She was yelling when my dad walked in. I didn't even wait. I packed my things, went to my mom's house, and told my dad I wasn't coming back because I couldn't deal with his wife anymore. She started texting me nonstop after that. I had to block her. But before I did, she called me cruel, heartless, and a bully for not treating her like a second mom. I feel like I've tried to be fair. I've been respectful. I've held my tongue more times than I can count. But at some point, you just have to set boundaries. So, am I the butthole here? Or is she just refusing to accept reality? Update 1. I didn't think things could spiral further, but boy was I wrong. After blocking my stepmom, I thought I'd have peace, but she decided to escalate. She started guilt-tripping my dad, saying I was tearing apart the family, disrespecting her, and ruining her relationship with my brothers. She even threw in that I humiliated her by excluding her from the spa day. Dad, of course, called me to mediate. He started with the usual dad logic, saying she's trying her best and that I should have included her to keep the peace. I told him that keeping the peace isn't my job, and I wasn't about to reward her behavior just because it made her upset. He didn't like that answer. He said I was being unfair because she has tried to be a good stepmom. Tried? Sure, if making everything a competition with my mom counts as trying. The conversation didn't stay calm for long. When I brought up how she's been pushing my mom out of important moments and acting like we're supposed to treat her as a second mom, he got defensive. He said, "She just wants to feel like part of the family." I told him there's a difference between being part of the family and demanding a role that's not hers. I laid it out. She's not my mom, she never will be, and I'm tired of pretending like I'm okay with her behavior just to make everyone else comfortable. That didn't go over well. Dad tried to flip it on me, saying I'm being too harsh and should have some empathy. But where was the empathy when she yelled at my brother for running to Mom after his play? Where was it when she spent years bad-mouthing my mom to Grandma on Mother's Day? I pointed this out, and he just sighed and said, "That was years ago. She's changed." Changed? No, she's just learned to mask her behavior better. I thought the conversation was over, but then my stepmom joined the call. She started going on about how I was disrespectful and how she's done so much for me and my brothers. She actually said, "I don't know what more I have to do for you to see me as your mom." That was it for me. I told her she could do whatever she wanted, but nothing would change the fact that she's not my mom and never will be. I told her I don't need another mom because the one I have is amazing. And honestly, her constant competition with Mom has done nothing but push me and my brothers further away from her. That's when she started crying. She said she's tired of feeling like she doesn't belong, and that I've been intentionally cruel by excluding her from bonding moments. I told her I didn't exclude her from anything. She was never invited because it wasn't about her. She started yelling, asking why I couldn't make her feel included, why I couldn't show some love. I told her, plain and simple, that love isn't forced. You can't demand it, especially not by stomping all over someone's boundaries. She hung up crying, and Dad told me I could have handled it better. I told him he's been enabling her behavior for years, and that if he'd set boundaries with her earlier, we wouldn't be in this situation. He just sighed and said, "This isn't how families are supposed to work." I stayed firm. I told him I wasn't coming back to his house until he and his wife could respect my boundaries. I don't need to be around someone who tries to force a relationship with me, especially when that relationship is built on resentment toward my mom. Dad didn't argue, but he sounded disappointed. A few days later, my grandma called me. She'd heard about the fight, of course, and wanted to check in. I told her everything, and she said she wasn't surprised. Apparently, my stepmom had already called her, complaining about how I humiliated her and how I'm turning the whole family against her. Grandma laughed and said, "She's always been more focused on appearances than actual relationships." And Grandma admitted that she's always felt uneasy about my stepmom. She told me about more Mother's Day conversations, where my stepmom would whine about how she deserves recognition as a mother. Grandma said she'd told her before that respect and love are earned, not demanded, but my stepmom never listened. Hearing that honestly made me feel validated. At least someone in my family understands. My brothers are also on my side. They told me they're sick of the constant drama with her and how everything has to be about her. My youngest brother even said, "It's like she doesn't even care about us. She just cares about looking like the perfect stepmom." That hit hard because it's exactly how I feel. Then came the kicker. My stepmom showed up at my mom's house. She actually knocked on the door and asked to talk to me. My mom answered and immediately told her to leave. She refused, saying she needed to fix things and that I was ruining her relationship with the family. My mom wasn't having it. She told her to leave or she'd call the police. That's when my stepmom started yelling, saying my mom was poisoning me and my brothers against her. Mom slammed the door in her face, and that was that. Later, I got a text from Dad saying my stepmom was heartbroken and that I should have just talked to her. I told him she had no business coming to my mom's house and that her behavior was out of line. He didn't reply. Now I'm stuck wondering if I did the right thing. Part of me feels bad because she clearly feels excluded, but another part of me knows this isn't my fault. I didn't ask her to compete with my mom or demand a role that wasn't hers. I didn't ask her to force relationships instead of letting them grow naturally. At this point, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I haven't seen Dad since I left, and my stepmom is still blocked. My brothers are sticking with me on this, but I can tell they're nervous about what it means for our relationship with Dad. I just wish he'd see that the problem isn't me, it's her. Until he does, I don't see how this gets better. Update 2. I thought things couldn't get more dramatic, but my stepmom has apparently made it her mission to escalate this to a whole new level. After the incident at my mom's house, I figured she'd cool off, maybe take a hint, but no. She's now going full victim mode. And somehow, I've become the villain in this whole situation. It started with her trying to rally my brothers. She sent a group text to all of us saying she's hurt, she loves us, and she doesn't understand why we're shutting her out. She included this whole spiel about how she's only ever tried to love us like her own, and how it's not fair that we don't see her as a mother figure. My brothers were over it. My 14-year-old literally replied, "We've told you why. Stop making this about you." She didn't respond, but I'm sure that only made her angrier. Then she started texting me again from a different number, which I didn't even know she had. She was saying things like, "I've been nothing but good to you," and "Do you realize how much you're hurting your dad?" I blocked that number too because I'm not about to argue with her when she refuses to listen, but she didn't stop there. A few days later, my dad called. He sounded exhausted and started with, "Can we just talk about this?" I told him I've said everything I need to say, and unless he's willing to set boundaries with his wife, there's nothing to discuss. That's when he dropped the bombshell. "My stepmom wants to go to family therapy." At first, I thought he was joking. Family therapy? For what? This isn't some miscommunication we can work through. She's been crossing boundaries for years, and instead of listening when we tell her to stop, she doubles down and plays the victim. I told him therapy wouldn't work unless she's willing to acknowledge her behavior, and he just said, "Well, it's worth a try, isn't it?" No, it's not. Therapy works when people take accountability, not when they use it as a platform to force others to agree with them. I told him I wasn't interested, and he got frustrated, saying, "You're not even willing to try?" I asked him why the burden is always on me and my brothers to fix things when his wife is the one causing the problem. He didn't have an answer. A few hours later, my grandma called. Apparently, my stepmom called her too, complaining that I'm tearing the family apart and accusing Grandma of enabling me. Grandma wasn't having it. She told my stepmom that I'm almost an adult, I'm allowed to set boundaries, and maybe she should focus on her behavior instead of blaming everyone else. My stepmom didn't like that answer, so now she's mad at Grandma too. Meanwhile, my brothers and I are just trying to live our lives. My youngest brother has been avoiding going to Dad's house because he doesn't want to deal with the tension. My other brothers are sticking it out, but they've both told me they're sick of the constant drama. It's like every little thing we do is another reason for my stepmom to feel slighted. If we hang out with Mom, she's upset. If we don't spend enough time at Dad's house, she's upset. If we don't act like she's a third parent, she's upset. It's exhausting. The weirdest part? My mom's boyfriend got dragged into this. Apparently, my stepmom saw pictures of us hanging out with him on social media and decided to make it a thing. She told my dad it's disrespectful, that we're closer to him than we are to her. My dad, to his credit, shut that down pretty quickly. He told her that Mom's boyfriend isn't trying to replace anyone, and that our relationship with him isn't a competition. Of course, she didn't take it well. Now she's trying a new tactic, playing nice. She sent me this overly sweet text from yet another number, saying she wants to start fresh and build a better relationship. She even offered to take me shopping or out to lunch, just the two of us. I didn't respond. I know it's just another attempt to manipulate the situation, and honestly, I'm not interested. My dad keeps trying to mediate, but it's clear he's at his wit's end. He doesn't want to upset his wife, but he also knows we're not backing down. It's like he's trying to walk this impossible line, and instead of addressing the real issue, his wife's behavior, he's hoping we'll just let it go. The thing is, I don't think my stepmom will ever change. She's so focused on being seen as a mother figure that she's completely missing the point. You can't force relationships. You can't demand respect and love. It doesn't work that way. And the more she pushes, the further she drives us away. At this point, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I haven't been back to Dad's house, and I don't plan to go anytime soon. My brothers are starting to pull back too, and I think my dad is starting to realize that this isn't just going to blow over. As for my stepmom, I wish she'd take a step back and think about why things are the way they are. Maybe then she'd see that the problem isn't us or my mom or grandma. It's her need to control everything and make everything about her. Until she figures that out, I don't see how this gets better.